Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our Draggable contact form series into this single long video so that it's easy for you to follow. And in this video, we're basically going to create this contact form right here. And this contact form is also draggable. So if I drag on this area right here, we can drag it across the screen. And in the end, I will also show you how to add this contact form to your Blogger website. And I will also leave the link of the source code in the description below. So let's get started. Right here I have opened up this folder called Draggable contact form, and I just opened it with VS Code. And here I also have a folder called images, and in that we have this drag icon SVG, which is this icon right here. So let's start by creating the necessary files. So let's create a new file, and I'll just name it index.html. And let's create a CSS file. I'll just name it style.css. And let's also create a JavaScript file. I'll just name it main.js. Let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code you have the shortcut where you can just press exclamation and press tab, and you will have this basic HTML file code. And let's link our CSS file over here. So I'll just type link and press tab, and in the href I'll just type style.css. And here in the body I'll just link the JavaScript file. So I'll just type script src, and here I'll just type main.js. Right now let's start with the HTML of the draggable contact form. So let's create a division with the class of draggable contact form. And in that, the first thing we need to have is this icon right here. So for that, let's create a division, and let's give it a class of drag icon. And in that, I'll just paste the SVG. So let's go to the images folder, and let's go to the drag icon SVG, and I'll just copy everything from here. And let's paste it inside our division. Alright, now the next thing we need to have is this heading right here. Now we will add the heading, these input fields, and also this button inside a form. So let's create a form, and in that the first thing we will have is the heading. So let's create an S3, and let's give it a class of form title, and here I'll just type contact us. And the next thing we will have is an input field, and the type will be text, and we will have a placeholder. So let's type placeholder, and here let's type name. And the next thing we need to have is another input field with a type of text, and here we'll just have a placeholder called email. And the last thing we need to have is a text area, because we need to have multiple lines of text. So let's type text area, and we can just remove these columns from here, and I'll just set the rows to, let's try 5, and we'll also add a placeholder for this, and let's type message. And the last thing we need to have is this button. So let's create an input with a type of submit, and we'll just add a value of send message. Right now the last thing we need to add is this icon right here. So for that we will use hero icons. So first of all, let me just create a division, and let's give it a class of contact icon. And let's go to heroicons.com, and let's search for phone, and let's copy this SVG from here, and let's paste it over here. Right now let's open this in our browser, and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called Live Server installed in VS Code. So once you have this extension installed, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on Open with Live Server. And here we can see that all the elements are displayed over here. Now the next thing we need to do is add the CSS and make it look like this. So we have already added the link of CSS over here. So let's go to a style.css file, and the first thing we will style is this contact icon. So here I'll just type contact icon, and let's set the width and the height to 40 pixels, and let's set the position to fixed, and we'll set the bottom position to 40 pixels and the right position to 40 pixels. And let's add a background color, and let's add a hex value of 0691df, and let's set the color of the icon to white. Let's add a padding of 10 pixels, and let's set the cursor to pointer, and we'll also add rounded corners. We'll actually make it a perfect circle, so I'll just type border radius and set it to 50%. Right now the next thing we will do is style this draggable contact form division right here. So let's type draggable contact form, and we'll set a width of 240 pixels, and let's set a height of 360 pixels, and we'll set the background color to white, and let's add a box shadow, and let's set the values to 0, 8 pixels, 42 pixels, negative 11 pixels, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.2, and let's set the font family to Roboto, and let's also set the position to absolute, and we'll set the right position to 40 pixels and the bottom position to 130 pixels. Right now let's style this drag icon. So let's go back to the index.html file, and here we can see we have this division with the class of drag icon. So let's select that. Let's type draggable contact form, drag icon, and let's set a background color of 82B8FF, and let's set a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom and 24 pixels left and right, and let's set a border radius of 10 pixels. And now this icon is not exactly in the center, so let's type display of flex, and now everything looks alright. Right now let's style this form element inside the draggable contact form. So here we can see we have this form, so let's style that. Here I'll just type draggable contact form, form, and let's set the display to flex, and let's set the flex direction to column, and let's set a padding of 16 pixels, and we will add a gap of 15 pixels between each of the elements. Right now let's style this heading. So for the heading we have a class of form title. So let's type draggable contact form, form title, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels, and let's set the margin to 0. Right now let's style these input fields. So let's type draggable contact form, input with the type of text, and also the text area. So let's type draggable contact form, text area, and let's set the font size to 16 pixels, and let's set a background color of EF, and let's remove the border, and we'll also add a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom and 24 pixels left and right, and let's also set the font family to Roboto, and we'll also remove this resize functionality in the text area. So let's target that. Let's type draggable contact form, text area, and let's type resize none. And now we don't have the option of resizing the text area. Right now the last thing we need to style is this button. Now let's go back to the HTML file and let's see the class for the button. And for the button we don't have any class, so let's add a class. Let's add a class of send button. Right now let's style that. Let's type draggable contact form, send btn, and let's set the background color to the same color right here. Let's remove the border, and let's add a font size of 20 pixels, and let's set the font weight to bold, and let's set a padding of 12 pixels, and let's set the color of the text to white, and let's set the text transform to uppercase, and we'll also add a border radius of 10 pixels. Now we have already added a padding for the form, so the same padding is also applied to this button right here. But if you go back to the original design, we don't have a padding for the button. So what we have to do is add a negative margin with the same value of the padding. So here we can see we have a padding of 16 pixels. So let's add a negative margin of 16 pixels. So let's type margin, and for the top I'll just set a margin of 0, and for the right let's add a margin of negative 16 pixels, and the same for the bottom and the left. And now we can see we have the correct styling for the button. Let's also set the cursor to pointer, and everything looks alright. So that's basically it with the design of the draggable contact form. Now the first thing we will do is we will add the functionality of displaying this contact form when we click on this button. So here we can see when we click on this button we have the contact form displayed, and when we click on it once again it disappears. So for that, first of all, let's go to the CSS and let's scroll up, and here we can see this is the CSS for the draggable contact form, which is the container division. So if we go to the HTML, here we can see this is the division with the class of draggable contact form. So what I will do over here is that I will set the opacity to 0 by default, and I will also set the pointer events to none so that no one can click on this contact form at the beginning. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a class called active to this draggable contact form using JavaScript. And when we add the class active, we're going to display this contact form. So when we click on this button, we're going to add the class active. So let me create a style for that. So let's tap draggable contact form dot active, and here we'll just tap opacity and set it to 1, and pointer events and set it to auto. Right, now let's add the JavaScript. So let's go to the index.html file, and if you scroll down, we can see that we have already linked our JavaScript file over here. Now we need to reference some of these elements from the HTML into the JavaScript. So we need to reference the parent division, which is draggable contact form, and we also need to reference this contact icon over here. So if you scroll down, we have a division with the class of contact icon, and the last thing we need to reference is this drag icon. So when we click and drag on this drag icon division, by the way, this is the drag icon division. So when we drag on this division right here, we want to have the drag functionality. So we need to reference this element as well. So let's go to our JavaScript file and let's type const draggable contact form equals document.querySelector, and we have a division with the class of draggable contact form. And the next thing we will reference is the contact icon. So let's type const contact icon equals document.querySelector contact icon. And the last thing we will reference is the drag icon. So let's type const drag icon equals document.querySelector draggable contact form drag icon. Right, first of all, let's add the functionality of displaying the contact form when we click on this contact icon. So let's add an event listener for that. I'll just type contact icon.add event listener, and we will listen for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here, and we just need to add the active class to the draggable contact form. So let's type draggable contact form dot class list dot add active, and now if we click on this icon, we can see that the contact form is displayed over here. Now when we click on this icon, once again we want it to be hidden. So for that, let's add toggle over here. Right, now let's click on this icon and we have the contact form displayed, and now if we click on it once again, it disappears. So everything is working alright. Now let's add the drag functionality. Now we need to add the drag functionality to this drag icon division. So let's type drag icon dot add event listener, and we will listen for an event called mouse down. Now this event will be fired when we start clicking on this element, and when we stop clicking on the element, we have the mouse up event triggered. Now once we have the mouse down event triggered, we want to check whether the user is dragging. So let's add one more event listener. So let's create an arrow function over here. Now let's add an event listener to the document. So let's type document.add event listener, and we will look for an event called mouse move. Now this event will be fired when we move the mouse around the screen. And now for the drag functionality, we'll create a function called drag. Right, now let's create the function over here. So I'll just type const drag equals. Now when we listen for this mouse move event, we have some data passed to this drag function over here. So let's call it position. You can name this anything you want. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to get the position of the draggable contact form. So let's create a variable for that. I'll just name it styles, and let's type draggable contact form dot get bounding client rect. Now this will contain a lot of information about our element. Now we need to get two of the information from this element. We need to get the left position and the top position. So let's store them inside variables. Let's call it left, and we have all the information inside the styles variable. So let's type styles dot left. So this will give us the left value, which is the left position from the screen. And let's also get the top value. So let's type let top equals styles.top. Right now we have the left and the top values of this element. Now let's change the left and the top positions based on the mouse pointer position. So for that, let's type draggable contact form dot style dot set property, and we'll set the left position, and let's set it to a value. Now we're going to use variables inside this value, so I'll just add backticks, and here we'll just type dollar symbol and curly braces for the variables. Let's type left, which is the current left position of the draggable contact form, and we need to add a value called movement x that comes from this variable right here, from this event listener mouse move. So let's type position dot movement x, and after that I'll just type pixels, and let's do the same for the top. So I'll just copy this and let's paste it down here, and here I'll just type top, and here I'll just type top, and here instead of movement x I'll just type movement y. Right now let's check whether this works. So let's click on this button, and let's drag on this area right here, and now we can see that we are able to drag our contact form. Now even if we stop dragging, it follows the mouse pointer. So we also need to remove the event listener once the mouse is up. So let's go back to our JavaScript, and let's type document dot add event listener, and let's listen for the mouse up event. And when the mouse is up, we need to remove the event listener. So let's copy this from here and let's paste it down here, and instead of add event listener, let's type remove event listener. And now let's check whether this works. So let's click on this button, and we have the form displayed over here, and if we drag this, we are able to drag, and if we leave, it stays there. So everything is working alright. So that's basically how you create a draggable contact form using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now this is just the design. Now in this video I'll show you how to add this contact form to your Blogger website. Alright, this is the dashboard of my Blogger website, and if I click on theme, you can see I'm using this theme called Contempo Aqua. It comes by default with Blogger, this theme right here. Now to add this contact form, we have to modify the HTML of the theme. So let's click on this arrow and click on edit HTML. And here we need to add the HTML, the CSS and the JavaScript. So first of all, let's add the CSS. Let's scroll down, and here we can see this is all the CSS of the theme. Let's scroll down and go to the end of the theme CSS. Alright, this is where the CSS ends. So let's make some space over here, and I'll just create a comment. I'll just type draggable contact form, and here we will add the CSS. So let's go to the source code, and I will leave the link of the source code in the description. So let's go to the style.css file, and let's copy everything from here, and let's go back and paste it over here. Alright, our CSS has been copied. Now the next thing we will do is add the HTML. So let's scroll down and go to the end, and here just before the body ends, let's make some space over here, and here we can add the HTML. But if we just add the HTML, the CSS and the JavaScript, this functionality of the contact form will not work. So we need to add some more Blogger specific code. So first of all, let me just add the JavaScript. So I'll just create a script tag, and let's go back to the source code, and let's copy the JavaScript from main.js file, and let's paste that over here inside the script tag. Right now let's add the Blogger specific code for contact form. So in Blogger we have widgets, so we need to add a widget for contact form. Now to add a widget in Blogger, you have to create a section. So in the section you can add widgets in Blogger. So the first thing we will do is create a section. So let's type less than b colon section. This is how you create a section in Blogger, and you have to give it an ID. So let's give it an ID of draggable contact form, and let's close that over here. So just type /b colon section, and now in this section we can add widgets. So let's add a contact form widget. So let's type less than b colon widget, and let's give it an ID of contact form 2, because I think we already have a contact form with an ID of contact form 1, and let's give it a type of contact form. And now the next thing you have to do is click on save, and Blogger will generate some code for contact form. So let's click on save, And now if we scroll down, we can see that Blogger has auto-generated this code. So this is our section with an ID of draggable contact form. And in that we have created this widget with an ID of contact form 2. So this is the contact form. We have all this code generated by Blogger. So we have these input fields over here. We have the submit button. And we also have error message or success message displayed over here. Now the next thing you have to do is integrate our code with this code right here. So let's go back to our HTML. And here we can see this is our code. So we also have this input fields over here, and we also have this button. Now we have to copy all of this, and we have to integrate the input fields inside this contact form into our contact form. So what I will do is inside this includable with an ID of content, I'll just make some space over here, and let's paste our custom contact form over here. Let's paste the HTML over here, and then we'll make the necessary changes. So let's go back and let's copy all this HTML from here, and let's paste it over here. Alright, our HTML has been copied, and this is how it looks. Now the next thing you have to do is replace all these input fields with these input fields right here. Now before that, let me just delete these extra elements over here. So we don't need to have this paragraph or this label. So let's delete these. And we don't need to have this paragraph as well. So let's delete this. And we also don't need to have this message. And we'll also delete this right here. And we have a paragraph over here as well. And then we also have a paragraph over here. And if you scroll up, we can see that we also have a class for this button. So we have a class of sendBTN, and for these input fields we don't have any class, but we have placeholders name, email and message. So let's add that, and we also have a row of 5. So let's scroll down, and here first of all let's add the class to the button. Now this is the button because we have a type of button, and we already have some classes over here. So let's add one more class over here called sendBTN. And for the text area, we already have a rows of 5. And let's also add the placeholders. So we don't have any placeholders right now. So here for the text area, let's add a placeholder of, I think it's message. So let's add message over here. And then for this input field, we have a placeholder of email. And for this one, we have a placeholder of name. Right now, let's copy all these input fields from here, and let's scroll up and let's paste it over here. So I'll just delete all these lines of code, and let's paste the input fields over here. Right now, let's delete the unnecessary code. So we have this includable with an ID of content. So in that we have this draggable contact form. And we can now delete this contact form from here. And now we have the end of the includable over here. So let's delete this space. And I think that's it with the contact form. So let's go ahead and click on save. Right now let's go back and let's open the website. So let's click on view blog. And here we can see we have the contact form displayed over here. Now we are not able to click on this contact icon. That's because we don't have the correct Z index. So let's go back and let's click on edit HTML. And let's go to the CSS. And let's add a Z index to the contact icon. And we'll also add the Z index to the contact form. So here for the contact icon, let's type Z index. And let's set it to, let's try 400. And even for the contact form, let's type Z index. And let's type 400. And let's save it. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. Right now, let's click on this contact icon. And we have the contact form displayed over here. And if you drag this, we can see that we are able to drag it across the screen. Now if you scroll up and down, we can see that the contact form also scrolls. So right now we have set the position of this contact form to absolute. Now we have to set it to fixed so that it will not move when we scroll down. So let's go back to our code and let's go to the CSS. And for the contact form, let's type position and let's set it to fixed. We already have the position set over here, so let's change this to fixed. Now let's click on save. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And let's click on this contact icon. And now if you scroll up or down, we have the contact form at the same position. So everything is working all right. Now if you simply add some information over here and send it, it will be sent to the email associated with your Blogger website. Let's send a message. So let's add some values over here. So let's type john@email.com and great website. And let's click on send. And we can see it says your message has been sent. Now here we can see we have a different styling for this button after sending the message. So let's see what's the problem. Let's right click over here and click on inspect. And here we can see for the button we don't have a class of send btn after the message was sent. So what we will do is we'll just copy this class from here and we will add this selector. So let's copy this class from here. And let's go back to our CSS. And here instead of send btn, let's just add the class. So I'll just add it over here, contact form button. And now it should work. So let's save it. Let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And let's click on this contact icon. Let's send a message. So let's add some name over here. And let's click on send. And we can see that we have the correct class applied over here. So we have the correct styling. Now the last thing we have to do is we have a message written over here. Now we need to style it correctly. So if I just click on send, we can see we have this message. A valid email address is required. So let's style this. We will just add a basic white background color to this message. So let's go back to our code. Let's scroll down and go to the HTML. And here we can see this is the error message and this is the success message. So here for the container, I'll just add some styles. So we already have this style attribute over here. We already have some styles over here. So let's add our styles. Let's add a background color of white. And I think we'll also set a line height of 1.8. And let's save it. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now let's click on send. And we have this error message displayed over here. If I click on this contact icon once again, we already have some space over here. We have some white background over here. So we need to remove the padding and margin of the error and the success messages. So let's go back. And here for these two paragraphs, I'll just add some styles. So let's type style and let's set the margin to 0 and also the padding to 0. We'll do the same for the second paragraph. And here for the button, we need to have send message written. So here we can see send message. So let's change that as well. Let's go back and let's go to the button. This is the button. So here we can see we have this expression. Now we'll just remove this expression. We'll just add a value and we'll set the value to send message. And let's click on save. Alright, let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And let's click on this contact icon. And now we can see we don't have any problems. We have the correct styling. And we also have the correct value for the button. And if I click on this button, we can see we have this error message and we have a correct styling for the error message as well. So that's basically how you can add a draggable contact form to your Blogger website. Now I will leave the link of this source code in the description below, so you can go ahead and copy and paste the code to your websites. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.